This is a game that the Browns should have and could have won. Despite the terrible calls, despite the turnovers, despite all of that, this was a game that the Browns could have won. So I'm not really here to kind of make excuses for the team. I'm not here to talk about a moral victory for the Browns. I'm also not here to tell you that Freddie Kitchen should be fired or Baker Mayfield should be benched. Nothing along those extremes. And I apologize if I don't sound as clear as I normally do. My voice is out. Apologize about that. But, this is just a weird loss to take because there is some good that you can take out of this. This isn't like the San Francisco game on Monday night. But it was just such a frustrating game to watch, to see a team that is capable, even while being in their own way, so capable that they can be up 20-6 without really even clicking on a very good team in Seattle, but still allow themselves enough room for error, enough mistakes that they can't get out of their own way and win this game that they should have won. And again, we're going to talk a lot about those penalties. We're going to talk a lot about just the turnovers, but I think the most important thing here is that the team did not get out of its own way. Did not. Multiple moments in this game that could have changed it. The team did not get out of their own way. So they're not blameless here. I'm not going to sit here and blame this on the refs. It's just a frustrating loss, so let's start to break it down. All right, so let's go over the win criteria. I'm going to go over both teams because I think there are some interesting here things that I pointed out. So for the Seahawks, it was about getting the ground game going early, which they never really did get the ground game going consistently. They had a couple runs here and there, but not consistently. The edge rushers need to play up to their potential, get 3 or more sacks. I don't think they got 3 or more sacks, but again, the pressure from the ends of Seattle was not a problem for the Browns. They actually did a really good job, the offensive line, with that. But it has to come with the context that their ends, Jadeveon Clowney and Ezekiel Ansah, have both combined for 2 sacks combined. So they have not been getting to the quarterback at all with any regularity, even against teams like Cincinnati. So I'm not going to say that the Browns' offensive line problems are fixed because they played well today. But the Seahawks are also going to have to play physical and knock the Browns off rhythm. They did this a little bit more in the second half. But let's look at the things that the Browns did or had to do to win this game. They had to get the passing game going. And they did. Early on, they had the passing game going. They were able to have Nick Chubb go off of that. Nick Chubb broke off that long 53-yard run. Up until they scored that one touchdown. And then after that, when they went up 20-6, things kind of went off the rails there for the passing game. But early on in this game, everything was working to a T. And then this last point came up, which is Baker has to be able to keep turnovers to a minimum. I mentioned that with good linebackers, they're going to be able to create a lot of turnovers. And the Seahawks team, I believe, had 3 interceptions coming into this game combined. They just doubled their number against Baker Mayfield alone. So not a good day. Too many turnovers, too many times they beat themselves in the foot. And, we can focus on a lot of different points in this game. Most important point I'm going to focus on is Baker threw a bit of not a bit of, but it's untimely interception in the back of the end zone. That cost the Browns a chance at 3 points, and then the Seahawks went and turned into 3 points, which doesn't seem like the hugest deal in the world, but that probably would have made a world of difference if the Browns were able to get out of there with just a few points. Again, the drive at the end of the game where, it went off of Dontrell Hilliard's hands right into a linebacker. All of these unfortunate things, all of these sloppy things, all these things where the team keeps shooting themselves in the foot, and it's frustrating. It's not easy to watch at all, but it is it is indicative and kind of reflective of some kind of growing pain issue going on with this team internally. And I don't want to speculate too much on what that is because that can start to get to like tabloid levels. But there's clearly something internally going on with this team, and we'll talk about why I think that in a little bit. But if you look at the win criteria, the Seahawks really didn't do what they had to do to get this win. They really messed up a lot. They got a lot of penalties. They shot themselves in the foot, but the Browns shot themselves even harder in the foot and allowed the Seahawks to win. But the Browns are the ones who let the Browns down. And honestly, the Browns are the ones who beat the Browns this game. And that's no disrespect to the Seattle Seahawks. I think Russell Wilson is having a great year. But Seahawks did not play a great game. And sure, there were bad penalties. Terrible. Some of the worst penalties called I've ever seen in my life. Sure, there were a bunch of bad breaks. But, you were putting too many opportunities to overcome those things, and you still allowed yourself to get in the way. That can't be blamed on any other entity than this team getting in their own way, which is something that is going to happen sometimes, but the extent that it's happened, it's cost the Browns 2 games at this point. I would say the LA Rams game and then this game. That's the difference. If this team does not beat itself, that's 2 wins difference. This team's 4-2, and they beat 2 pretty good teams. You feel completely different about the team. But this team has not been able to get out of their own way. They have not been able to support when the defense gives you a winning performance. And some people might think that the Seahawks were able to move the ball too easily against this defense. The fact that they held them to field goals, the fact that this game, the Seahawks did not score over 40 points. The Browns were definitely in a position to win this game. The defense played well enough for this team to win. And the offense, again, has let them down, which was supposed to be the strength of this team. So, again, they got to get something figured out during this bye week. And it's going to be hard because they're going to have to play the Patriots next week. But let's go into some key takeaways. So my first takeaway, I don't want to be completely negative, and I know since my voice is kind of dead, it might have a negative tone, but I'm not negative, super negative about this loss. But my first takeaway is that this was obviously a much better effort than the week before, but it's also obvious that there are a lot of issues going on internally with this team on some level. I don't know what that level is. I don't want to speculate. I don't want to insinuate drama from anybody because I have no idea what is going on. All I know is that there are too many weird coincidences coming out of Berea for there not to be some kind of internal thing going on. Like look at somebody like Rashard Higgins or even Jannard Avery, 2 guys who are capable players who were contributors last year, major contributors last year on offense and defense, who can't find a way to get on the field. We have 2 corners out right now with the same exact injury on the same exact timetable, which we don't even know how they got injured because this injury came up in the middle of the week. We had Demarius Randall miss a few games because of concussion that Demarius Randall claims he never had. And then we have Jarvis Landry get a concussion. He also felt like he didn't have a concussion. He got out of protocol like the next day. So if Landry was able to get out the next day and he didn't have a concussion, what was going on with Demarius Randall that he missed 2 games? Just some weird things. It smells like something's being covered up internally and kept away from the public, which is fine. We don't need to know all this information, but what I can do is kind of take the weirdness of it and point it out and say that there is something going on internally that might be the cause for some of this. I don't want to say dysfunction, but some of the tendencies for the Browns to kind of get in their own way. It just really seems like something ain't right with this whole situation. And I'd be interested to know what comes out as time goes along. And my second point is the problems being what they are with the team. The inability to stop a pass rush and keep the pocket clean. It really makes me worried about the matchup with New England. I really hope that the coaching staff does spend a lot of time getting creative and making sure that, there are ways to mask these flaws, because New England has like 22 sacks as a team so far. I think that if that's correct, that's kind of off the top of the head. But they are very good at getting to the quarterback. And the secondary that they have is very good. And it's just a terrible matchup for the Browns. So the coaching staff's really going to have to take advantage of this bye week if they want to win that game. And winning that game would be a huge deal because, again, being 3-4 is much different than being 2-5 at this point of the season. So I don't want to say it's a must win, but it is something that could change your fortune in this season. But yeah, the Browns just they got some issues. They have some very clear and present issues that aren't really talent based, that are internally going on with this team. I don't know what they are specifically. I can only speculate, and I'm not going to get too detailed with my speculation, but just a lot of weird stuff that I have not seen around the team that's happening. And I don't think it's infighting or anything. I think it's something administratively with the behavior of specific players and how that's being handled and kind of covered up so the public doesn't know about it. But it's just, again, seems odd. Something seems a little off. And that's just my own intuition about the whole situation. Now, my final thoughts on this game. Well, again, it's a bad loss because it's a game you should have won. And it's not something you take a moral victory from. This team is beyond that point to where they shouldn't be taking moral victories. But, it's not a demoralizing loss. It's not a season-ending loss. There's still a ton of upside to this team. They still have a lot to look forward to and a lot of time to get this thing right. Now, they got to get it right, and they got to get it right soon here because they're going to hit a tough stretch here pretty soon. But they got time, they got a chance to get this right. So the season is definitely nowhere near over, and nobody needs to get fired. Nobody needs to get benched. This is not the time for wholesale changes for the sake of wholesale changes. Everybody who sits there and tweets same old Browns because the Browns did not beat the Seahawks. What would be same old Browns? Firing your coach or benching your starting quarterback in a bye week because you're overreacting to the start of the season. That's same old Browns, in my opinion. That would be the same old garbage that's gone on for years. Not what's gone on at the beginning of the season. Has it been frustrating? Yes. Has it been hard to watch at times? Absolutely. My frustration has come out on this channel. We all know what the feeling has been. But to sit there and suggest somebody get fired and also be mad that this is the same old Browns is kind of an oxymoron. Nobody needs to get fired. Nobody needs to get benched. We need to give this thing time to develop. We need to give them the season to see if they can get themselves out of these holes that they've dug themselves into, if they can find a way to get out of their own way. Because if this team gets out of their own way, they're a very, very good team. They're one of the better teams in the AFC if they can get out of their own way, because that's been the only real obstacle. I mean, outside of the Tennessee game where they kind of got in their own way there, but they lost by too big of a margin to blame that on that. And then, of course, the San Francisco game, where you could argue that, but it'd be ridiculous. San Francisco is just a very, very good team playing very good football and the Browns just aren't. Playing very good football right now. So, this team isn't that far away, but what's in their way is themselves, and that can either be an easy hurdle to get over or a frustrating long hurdle to get over. And let's hope it's not the latter. It's that they can get over this in the bye week and find a way to get this thing going in the right direction, because I don't think they're that far away. I think some of the logistical things on offense have kind of gotten fixed, because in that way they didn't look as bad as they did earlier in the season. I think this team's just getting into their own way. I don't know if it's a mentality thing. I don't know if what the message is in the coaching staff, but they're definitely getting in their own way, and it's definitely costing them games. And, it absolutely needs to stop, or else the season is going to be over in a few weeks if they don't get this together. But the good news is that after New England next week, the worst of the schedule is over. The Browns would have played the bulk of the very, very, very good teams on their schedule, and they have a lighter schedule after that. So they have lesser opponents to kind of get over some of their issues. And I think while lesser opponents do mask your problems and make it harder to find them, I think the Browns' problem is that they're getting in their own way. I think that's more of a mentality thing, and I think playing against lesser competition is kind of going to be helpful for them to learn how to get out of their own way. So I think that is fortunate in that way. But that's my thoughts on it. Again, sorry that my voice is kind of dead. Hopefully you guys can all hear this. But that is it for this week's video. Let me know what your thoughts are on the game down below. Thank you guys for watching. Have a great day. Have a good night.